It is time for us to stop honoring white supremacists by naming schools, other institutions, streets, bridges after them.
They want to get rid of everything to do with the white man, especially the white Southern man.
They want to blame somebody.
Right?
You're blaming your own people. You blame your own people.
Jacksonville, Florida is a place of many contrasts. It's considered the Deep South, but you will find Jacksonville in the northernmost part of Florida. It's an up-and-coming city, but much of its identity is woven into the history of the Old South. Southern rock band Lynyrd Skynyrd was formed in Jacksonville. Several members of the band attended Robert E. Lee High School, so named after Confederate General Robert E. Lee. Lynyrd Skynyrd was actually a real person. He was a gym teacher at Lee High School in the 1960s. And he was known for being highly critical and vocal regarding the founding members of the band's long hair. He said they probably wouldn't amount to much. These Southern rockers from Robert E. Lee High School decided to call their band Lynyrd Skynyrd. People in Jacksonville, they've been known to stir things up from time to time. And if there's one thing that gets folks down here stirred up, it's taking down monuments to the Old South, Civil War monuments, and schools named after Confederate generals. But that's exactly what officials in Jacksonville propose doing. Built in 1926, Robert E. Lee High School has stood in Jacksonville for nearly 100 years. Jacksonville School Board has proposed removing the name of Robert E. Lee from the school. Those who want to keep the name are as passionate as those who want to change it. Opinions are as divided as the North and South once were.
I am definitely for changing the name of Lee High School, and for some rather obvious reasons. Robert E. Lee, this Confederate general, had some pretty backward views about slavery and white supremacy.
Why should something be taken away from you that served 93 years here? I mean, we've had politicians, we've had attorneys, we've had corporation CFOs and CEOs that have come out of this school, and it's built people of different dialects, different nationalities, and all of a sudden, in 2021, they want to change the name.
Confederacy sought to perpetuate slavery, white supremacy, white privilege, racism, and racial inequality.
Now, all of a sudden, we've got this change in America that they feel that they can do anything they want now and get whatever they want.
We have no business naming schools after Confederate generals. They have no business being named and honored in public places and public spaces.
So you went to Lee High School?
I did. Graduated in '64.
Right.
My mother went here. I went here. I met my husband here. I had 3 boys, and they all graduated from Lee.
It is time for us to stop honoring white supremacists by naming schools, other institutions, streets, bridges after them.
You know, and if this is what all that's about, that's history. I mean, let's all try to get along with everybody, and we have such a good educational program at Robert E. Lee High School, and everybody wants to go to Robert E. Lee.
The white supremacist sign at the city council.
Why
the white supremacist sign last week at the city council.
It's a relic at school. A good man to who? A good man to who? Who was he a good man to? He was a good man to white people. He was not a good man to the Africans that he enslaved. Oh, that's my opinion? Those are the facts.
Who sold the slaves to the white man?
Who sold them? Who sold them? Here we go.
Who sold them?
Yeah, I'm kind of uncomfortable.
I'm not saying it's good.
So you're saying
they want to blame somebody. They want to blame somebody. You blame your own people. You blame your own people.
Yeah, well, that's your problem. That's why people call you a racist. That's why you're called a racist.
Okay, no yelling anymore, right?
Well, Scott is a racist. He is
oh my God, black people can't even be
So the
racist.
city council told him 2 weeks ago if he did the work to sign one more time, he'd be banned from the city.
Be strong.
I don't care about being strong. I care about being alive in one piece.
But it's not just changing school names that's in controversy. Memorials to soldiers who served and died for the Confederacy are also under attack. This monument was recently vandalized. Another shows marks from gunfire. This monument stood in Jacksonville's Hemming Park for 122 years. It came down unexpectedly in the middle of the night, on June 9th, 2020. It came down by way of an unlikely ally, Jacksonville Republican Mayor Lenny Curry.
I've evolved on the importance of the issue. I've heard people. Absolutely. If our opinions and our policies don't evolve, then we're not growing and we're stagnant. So I've evolved.
Lenny Curry is Southern, born and raised. He is a former chairman of the Florida GOP. An accountant by trade, Curry is the very embodiment of conservative politics. His manner, appearance, and political positions speak to his right-wing ideology. And then there was this.
I made a decision.
Last question. We've seen
Black Lives Matter.
Jacksonville, Florida is a place where unexpected things happen. But one thing for sure, people here, they will have an opinion about it.
I'm so mad and disgusted at Lenny Curry. But Curry do it in the middle of the night? That's typical Curry. He's a snake. He's a backstabber to all of us, and his political career is over in Jacksonville. I guarantee that. Southerners will never vote for him, real Southerners. And he tried to appease the blacks by doing this, and blacks hate him. They hate Curry. So his career is over.
Seber Newsome has spent much of his life wearing a uniform, first in the enlisted ranks of the United States Army, followed by a career with the U.S. Postal Service. Newsome is retired today and has become what some call a one-man army, dedicated to saving the symbols of the Old South.
Well, there's a lot of people doing it besides me. I mean, I guess I'm the most vocal and I'm out there more. But, yeah, sometimes I say the heck with it, but then that's my old self comes back and I get back in the fight again. And once I found out that my ancestors fought, then I have been going 100% trying to save the monuments in Florida, even out of state. Well, I love the white race. If that makes me a white supremacist, so be it. That people wear Black Lives Matter and they give the black power sign, what are they? Are they black supremacists? I think everybody should love their own race. And I love being white. You know, I don't like some of the whites who have white guilt. They're guilty they are white. They feel guilty that they were born white, but no, I'm not a white supremacist. I'm a white Southerner, and I'm a nationalist, because that means you love your country. So I guess you could say I'm a white Southern nationalist. But that's the wrong thing to say today, because if you say that, you're considered a white supremacist, which I don't even know what that means. But I'm flying the American flag, as you can see, upside down. And the reason I'm doing that is because the country's in distress right now. That's part of the flag code. You fly it upside down when there's distress. What's next? You're going to change America, named after Amerigo Vespucci? He was a slave. He had slave ships. He was a slave trader. You can change the name of America? Where is it going to end? They want to get rid of everything to do with the white man. The white man, especially the white Southern man, has been under attack for years. He's really under attack now. So they want to cancel everything, all the history, and rewrite it to their own narrative that satisfies them. They don't want to know anything about the past, what happened. We want it now. We want to get rid of everything. Oh, right here we have Andrew Jackson. President Trump loves Andrew Jackson, the hero of New Orleans. I've been to his house. I forget the name of it now. My wife and I went up there and saw his plantation. 7th president, I believe he was.
You know, imagining if you were a young man and you were about to go to high school, and that high school were named after Martin Luther King, what would be your thoughts about that?
That wouldn't bother me at all, because he was about peace. He said, you don't judge somebody by the color of the skin, you judge them by their character. Well, people don't do that anymore today. You know, I even went to Tallahassee and spoke one time, and that was my opening statement. They wanted to pass a white supremacy bill. And I said, you don't judge somebody based on their color of the skin. You just judge them based on their character, like Martin Luther King said. So it wouldn't bother me going to school named after Martin Luther King. Yeah, come out here on Confederate Memorial Day in April. Every state has their different day they celebrate it. Come back out here, you'll see 100. I think one year at 123 of the little 16-inch battle flags all over my yard, both sides. So come out then and see. I mean, I'll do it for the one day, because my HOA really don't like it. I mean, but I'm going to have my yard flooded with Confederate battle flags. They're trying to divide America based on race. And they're puppets. These young kids are all puppets. They don't know what's going on. They're being used like pawns. They're trying to divide this country based on race. And it's working. It's working. We're getting more and more divided on race. Well, just Dio Vindici. And God, we continue to fight, or something like that, with God behind us.
Now, you would think with Jacksonville's strong Southern identity that there was a lot of Civil War history in the town. Truth is, Confederate troops, and many loyal to them, evacuated the city in March of 1862 on hearing of a flotilla of Union gunboats headed their way. On March 11th, only 14 months after secession, the Civil War in Jacksonville pretty much ended. The local sheriff, the only person of authority left in town, surrendered the city to Union forces. Now, that's not to say what followed wasn't important. At that time, Jacksonville was a long way from anywhere. It became a haven for Confederate deserters, and loyalties were not as strong to either side as in the rest of the divided nation.
My name is Walker Blanton. I've been here for over 50 years, teaching history at Jacksonville University for actually 53 years.
Jacksonville University professor Walker Blanton has been teaching history for more than a half a century. His expertise is in the American Civil War. He offered this perspective on the war years in Jacksonville.
I know this. The Union Army, carried by the Union Navy, could occupy Jacksonville at will anytime they chose, and they did several times and would pull back out and come back. Oh, everybody in Jacksonville had 2 caps. Put on your gray cap, take it off, put on your blue cap.
As far as I know, history, there was not a lot that happened in the city of Jacksonville. Yet we appear to have more schools named after Confederate leaders than almost any other city. I don't believe there was any great battles in Jacksonville. There may have been troops that come through back and forth, but there was nothing significant that happened in Jacksonville to where you hear it on the news or hear it in documentaries.
After a distinguished career in the military, Reginald Blount today is an adjunct professor at Florida State College, Jacksonville. He has run for public office and is politically active in his community. He is concerned about the increasingly disrespectful tone of this debate.
Yes, there was a young man, and I'm not sure what his name was. I wish I could have found him, but he had a mirror, and he said something to the tone of, if you want to see what a racist looks like. And he started pointing at all of the white citizens in there and these older people. And it was very disturbing to me because, you know, how dare you take these people who are of this community and hold up a mirror and say, you're a racist. That really bothered me. And I wanted to address him personally on that because that's when I felt like it was getting out of control, and it kills the intent. It was almost symbolically violent to hold a mirror up to a white elderly lady and say, this is what a racist looks like. The children seem to be totally one-sided. I was asking the question, well, where are the white students at the school? Why aren't many of them here? Is it because they're scared? Or is it because they feel intimidated? Now you're working with 2 dynamics. You're looking at the ones who want it, who were very visible, but I'm sure there are some that don't want the name change but are scared to voice their opinion, because sometimes it seems like the media is more one-sided than the people are.
Good morning, Lisa. How are you today?
Very good. Thank you. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
Briefly, just to put this in context, why would you name a school Adolf Hitler High School, home of the fighting Gestapo?
Thank you, Lisa. You know, for people who might be offended by that analogy, it's a fair analogy, Dr. Allen. Slavery was a unique evil. It's fair to compare it to the Nazis and the Holocaust.
I had family that were imprisoned in Auschwitz. I have documentation that shows the trains that they were on taken to that place and put to death.
Why should someone come along 200 years later and say that this man was a bad man? I'm just proud to live in the United States because I feel that when my grandfather came from Lebanon, he was persecuted as a Christian, and he had the opportunity here, and I wouldn't be here today if that didn't happen. So we're all proud just to be Americans, all proud to live here.
I was raised by a white supremacist, and I've seen from that side what they think about these names on these buildings, on these public places. And they appreciate it. They think they've won. They see it as a sign that the Confederacy lives on, and it does not.
We need to move on. We need to learn how to get along with each other. If this high school is having problems, how long has it been predominantly African American?
Huh? I'm not threatening you. I'm saying, why don't you get it out of you?
Right. You're coming through it.
It never stops, because when are you going to change the name Jacksonville? When are you going to look at many things in our community that are named after people that you call undesirable? Are we just really turning over the whole country into something that we all don't even know of, or something that nobody's going to recognize? And is it just individuals' agenda of what they want?
And once you start to change, where do you stop? Do we change the name of Jacksonville? If atheists make a fuss of it, do we change the name of the St. Johns River? Where does it stop? I think you better to stay where you are and then learn about it. Use it as a teaching tool. Make what of it should be done.
Someone had asked, well, Jacksonville is named after Andrew Jackson. What are we going to change? Are we going to change that too? And they said, that's next. So this whole, there is no end.
Good evening. My name is Robert Edward Lee, aka the General. See, Oz has many names. Some call me Marble Man, some call me King of Spades, some call me Uncle Robert, and some even call me Massa. See, I command the Army of North Virginia from about 1862 to the year of 1865. Oh, I got love for Virginia. That's my home. Even though I probably knew going over there and commanding the Confederate Army was morally wrong, and that I was basically fighting to keep those black folks enslaved. But I still did it because I'm loyal. I believe loyalty outrules basic human rights. I believe loyalty means more than a human life. I believe loyalty means more than freedom for all. Slavery is a bad thing, you see? Hey, keep your eyes here. I said slavery was a bad thing. So don't worry about those Negroes in my backyard picking cotton. Ignore that. Focus on my accomplishments. See, I graduated second in my class at Old West Point. Oh, man, the good old days. I'm a skilled tactical man, but I'm racist. But that doesn't matter, right? Let's just focus on my glory days. Let's not talk about how many black women I raped and how many black men I whipped. Let's not talk about how I had the courage and the leadership to become a traitor and fight against my country. I'm sure most of y'all love the Confederacy, so I'm sure y'all probably racist, just like me. So let's not say that straight up, because we'll probably lose our businesses and friends and grandchildren, or even worse, we'll get canceled by the cancel culture. My name means terrorism. My name means loyalty. My name means my name means loyalty before morality. My name means racism, period. Take my name off these schools and let this country move on. Thank you. Change the name.
Thank you, Mr. Curtis. No applause, please. Thank you. Thank you.
No nation in the history of man has manipulated the concept of race for political gain the way America has and the way American politicians have, since they first found out that alarming people as to the idea of race would get them votes.
The way this is being presented is that this name or a statue or all these external things are holding you back in life. You can't come into a school with this name. It's going to just oppress you. You can't learn in an environment because a name is on a building. You can't, it is further it is oppressing and insulting, quite frankly, I feel, to tell people that you're going to be limited because there is a name on a building. It's fascinating that something that doesn't move, doesn't talk, doesn't, it's an inanimate object, that it can have that much power over you. And I refuse to give a person that much power over me, let alone a statue or a name on a building. And for me, it's the message that we're sending to these children that, until that name comes down, you can't properly achieve everything that you want to achieve in life. And I think that it in itself is oppressive and insulting.
These names embody men who sought to keep my people in chains.
Ben Frazier is among the strongest voices in the fight to remove Confederate monuments. A former broadcast journalist, he was the first African American to anchor a local news broadcast in Jacksonville. His roots in the community run deep.
My mother was a civil rights activist. She would participate in the early marches trying to desegregate public accommodation here in Jacksonville, Florida. I remember candidly holding her hand in front of Morrison's cafeteria, where black folks could work, but they could not eat. I remember the Ku Klux Klan passing by in an open bed truck in full regalia and being afraid and holding my mother's hand and looking up to her, telling her that I was afraid. And she said, Benny, boy, don't you be scared. They ain't gonna do nothing. And I did not know then that I would be where I am now as a civil rights activist. So that is where it began. My activism started with my mother, Estella Frazier, who was a foot soldier in the civil rights movement here in Jacksonville, Florida. Well, I think that as the monuments are concerned, we need first to understand the historical context, because the monuments, you see, are not Civil War monuments. They are, in fact, Jim Crow monuments. So let's examine that for a moment. When were the monuments erected? The Civil War began in 1860. The first shots fired at Fort Sumter. The war was over in 1865. You would think that that was when these Civil War monuments were erected. Wrong. They were not. So they're not Civil War monuments. They were erected to let black folks know that white folks are still in charge. We are not fighting a war or a battle against metal, marble, brass, or stone. We are fighting this battle against what these monuments stand for. People should not be honored with names on public schools and public places and spaces and public property who felt that black people were inferior to whites simply because of the color of their skin. I suggest that it is now time to stop fighting the Civil War. We're still dealing with differences in terms of black folks and white folks and poor folks and not so poor folks. We just need to face that reality. We must become a city and a nation that is too busy to hate. It's time for us to move forward. I think what the answer here to the problems confronting this country, this state and this city, is our love for a fellow man, for there to be truth, justice, and liberty for all. We just got to care about each other a little bit more. We got to listen to each other a little bit more. I don't expect that we'll ever sit down around a campfire and sing Kumbaya, but we ought to try to move in that direction.
No matter what happens, if both sides feel like their perspectives have really been considered and that the people making the decisions really can sort of see things from where they are, I think that'll be much more important than what actually happens. The communication is key, in my opinion.
Never heard that about the town he lived in.
You're standing out here with not an American flag, a Confederate flag. So tell me, explain to me why. Explain to me why.
And his teacher said, no, that's just a rubber.
You can't stop us!
By your action, you have approved renaming Robert E. Lee High School 5-2.
Breaking now at 11, nearly 11 months of debate has ended. Duval County school leaders have voted to change the names of 6 out of 9 schools, those 6 branded after Confederate leaders.
And after 150 years, Robert E. Lee and the Confederacy again lose another battle. And that's how this chapter ends, in a story that just doesn't seem to have an end. Now, the way I see it, people been changing names of places and tearing down monuments since time immemorial. The thing is, you cannot change history. The question is, what history did you leave behind?